feeling of coziness, enjoying your beer in a sunny day, messing up things so much it's hard to fix it. How many words do you need in your mother tongue to express these ideas, the ideas I just mentioned? Plenty. This is a podcast about untranslatable words or expressions taken from different foreign languages. We're going to have a look at the English translations, or I'd say complex descriptions of such. It's Kasia speaking. Hope you'll enjoy this time with me. Before we start, I want to apologize for my mispronunciation of the expressions taken from languages I don't speak. I do my best to be as close as possible to the correct pronunciation, and I do not mean to offend anyone, even when I laugh, which will probably happen, since laughter is my coping mechanism. Even if I laugh, I do not offend anyone, yeah? So I believe that short intro will do. Let's get started. Let's begin in colder parts of Europe. You see, some of these expressions might have been coined due to the climate conditions. Imagine yourself sitting outside, exposing yourself to the sun and enjoying your beer. It's called utepils in Norway. Can imagine a situation as such is desirable after months or perpetual night, and they need doses of vitamin D. So the three conditions must be fulfilled. Sitting outside, a sunny day, and enjoying your beer. Bob's your uncle, you are experiencing utepils. Norway's neighbour, Sweden, can also serve us plenty of unusual expressions, as you will learn from next podcast. Today, I've got for you mangata, which is a road-like reflection of the moon on the water. So probably you're able to imagine what I mean if you've been at least once in your life at the lake at night. Let's move on a little bit further to Denmark, where they have a quite popular concept of hygge. Probably heard of it. Imagine this. It's cold outside and you are not going today. You're not going out. Not a chance. Instead, you put on cozy slippers, comfy jumper, sit on a sofa under a blanket surrounded by pillows, stare at the fireplace, and maybe drink hot chocolate or mulled wine. Try to think about the feeling that accompanies you at this particular moment. Got it? Here comes to you hygge, a feeling of coziness. Never been to Denmark, but didn't have to start practicing it, actually. And now, the next expressions from the Inuit language, and here I am apt to believe the weather conditions play a huge role in coining such an expression. Imagine you're missing somebody and you're waiting for them. You're counting the days and hours to finally meet them again, but the time, of course, drags. You might be even checking if they're coming by, looking out the window, and a word iktusarpork expresses the feeling of anticipation or frustration when you're expecting somebody and you're constantly checking if they are back. Running errands in places where you use the Inuit language is far different from running errands in countries with a moderate climate. Hence, the expression, I guess. And now, German. One of my favorites. Not a language, of course. Expressions. Imagine. A husband doesn't behave appropriately. Well, how can a husband misbehave when you're German? No clue. Anyway, maybe coming home too late and drunk as a lord, chatting up another lady, still not taking the rubbish out, although their wives ask for it 1,000 times. If you're German and you listen to it, give us a hint. Anyway, after such misbehavior, they want to apologize and buy a box of chocolates, flowers, whatever will do. And this kind of gift given from a naughty husband to beloved wife is Draschenfutter. So interesting German marriages must be, since there is such an expression in German. Before I tell you the next one in German, I must confess to something. Whenever I see somebody from my close family or circle of friends and something happens to them, but not serious, of course, but let's say they trip over and fall down in a funny manner, and I see it's not very serious, I laugh. Maybe you experience the same, please? I hope I'm not the only one. to have, I mean, not have fun, but laugh in this situation. But German is more brutal than that. German laughs at the misery of others. So when you feel enjoyment when you see somebody's misery, deriving pleasure from misfortunes, really? But, I'm somehow not surprised such an expression exists in German. But German is able to have human feelings too. Fernweh, something like that, is homesickness, but not for a place you've been to or your home country, but for the place you've never been to. German, interesting language. You'll find out more about it in next podcasts too. And now, let's move on further to the west and have a first stop in France. Esprit de l'escalier. Esprit de l'escalier, unfortunately, comes to my mind from time to time when the punchline doesn't arrive on time. This expression, literally, on the way down the stairs, means a witty remark that occurs to you too late. So the chance to say something back, be a master of punchlines, or comment on a situation with a witty remark is gone, since your brain worked out for a moment like the Internet Explorer browser. For the next 4 ones, I need to activate my hands, because I hope it will help me sound more Italian with the Italian hands. So, gattara is a woman, often old and lonely, who devotes her life only to stray cats. So many of them must be there, since they have the name for it, for the women. And so, I think, so innovative the Italians are, since they have a name for a mark left on the table by a moist glass. Can you imagine it? You have a cup or a glass, and it's moist, and then you have a mark on the table, and it is called cullettino. It's so common and useful. Really, if I had it in Polish, I would be using it so often. It would be cool to have such an expression in other languages too. And next one is a kind of saying which, according to the resources I have found, is untranslatable, but I cannot totally agree. Cavoli riscaldati is literally reheated cabbage, and figuratively speaking, it's a pointless attempt to revive a former love affair. However, we have such an expression in Polish. It's not a cabbage, it's a pork chop, but it's also reheated. So when we use it very often as a comment on a couple who got back together, and then we say, "Oh, that's a reheated chop," when we want to describe this couple, or when we use it as a kind of a remark that it's better not to reheat this pork chop because it was a hard breakup. So why should you? And for example, you used to fight so often. So why do you want to come back? Yeah, why do you want to get back together? So yeah, we say then you'd better not do it. Yeah, it's better if we don't reheat this pork chop. So we use it in a slightly different context than in Italian. But our Polish expression still carries a similar meaning to the Italian one. And the last Italian one, attacca bottone. Attacca bottone is an extremely boring person who tells you long, boring tales. The time drags, you dine from boredom, and somehow you cannot escape it. So I would save myself and probably just say goodbye and leave the room. Why can't the Italians escape? Do they often find themselves in such a situation? Are they so polite they don't want to interrupt the person and prefer die from boredom? It's more likely among the English, I would say. It sounds like an English expression because they are extremely polite. But yeah, here we are, attacca bottone. Before we move to Asia, here are some random and miscellaneous ones from different countries. So, the Dutch literally jump in a suitcase together, which means they have a romantic or dirty weekend away. If you are familiar with Polish cuisine, you might have heard about bigos. It's a dish consisting of cabbage, sausage, mushrooms, sometimes dried plums, and whatever else you would prefer to add. So, if, in Polish, narobisz bigosu, meaning you made bigos, it means you mixed up things and you messed up a lot. And it's very, very hard to fix the things you screwed up. Tingo, from Rapa Nui, takes me back to my childhood when I played The Sims. I remember a Sim sometimes sneaking out to steal a garden gnome from their neighbor. And here we have Tingo, which means to gradually steal all your neighbor's possessions by borrowing and not returning. Who would think it? If you sometimes feel you have a bad luck or a bad day, it's probably nothing when you compare it with the Yiddish word shimazel, meaning a chronically unlucky person. So having a bad day is not enough. You need to suffer from it chronically. Next time you complain, think it can be always worse. Let's introduce a romantic atmosphere for a moment. You walk in on your tiptoes on warm sand. The act of doing that is Haniauki from Namibian. And of course, as a person passionate about the English language, I need to introduce an English expression here as well. Bob's your uncle. Imagine somebody's showing you some kind of a process, instructions, how to do something. Step by step, they explain everything and then they sum it up with the saying, Bob's your uncle. So before I started recording this podcast myself, my sister showed me step by step what to press, how to adjust the microphones, etc. And at the very, very end, she could say, and Bob's your uncle. So now time for the Asian part. Here goes, the last and the Asian part. So, Japanese and Chinese. Just one from Chinese, so we can start from this one. A word which I believe has a pejorative meaning due to China's child and family policy. Gagung. Gagung. It refers to a man who is very unlikely to marry or have a family. Time for Japanese. For over 1 year of my research on untranslatable expressions, words, proverbs, Japanese has always had something surprising for me and appears in every episode on Untranslatables. So here goes the first part. Imagine you fancy somebody and the person seems to fancy you too. You share a meaningful look, however, no one is brave enough to initiate anything. Mami chlapi na tapei. Mami chlapi na tapei is this particular look shared by two people who want to initiate something but they are too scared or shy. Next one is something I'd like to have in Polish. Komorebi. Komorebi is a light effect when sunlight shines in through trees. We are familiar with the expression of tiger mother who pushes her children into high academic achievements, and the Japanese language describes such mothers as kyoiku mama. Kyoiku mama. That's a funny one, you know? Have you ever experienced a bad haircut? If so, you've experienced age otori. Age otori, which means to look worse after a haircut. What about eating out of boredom or to comfort yourself? I believe it's close to kuchisabishi. Kuchisabishi is eating because your mouth is lonely. And how do you perceive beauty? They say it's in the eye of the beholder, don't they? For the Japanese, there is another one. Shibui, beauty that we radiate with and which comes with life experience. Beauty of becoming ourselves. The older you are, the more life experience you have, the more beautiful you are. I think this concept illustrates kind of a life wisdom, and we should have it in other languages too. And the reflection I will give you with is that reality, cultural conventions, climate shape the language, and the other way around. How cool is that? Hope you enjoyed it. It was Kasia speaking to you. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.